When you're new to the guitar, this is one of the best times and the best experiences you're going to have if you come at the idea of learning the guitar from the right perspective. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of the times you'll hear, oh, pick your favorite song, learn your favorite song. Probably your favorite song is too hard for you to start with and learn. You'll be overwhelmed by the number of chords, the number of things you have to do that an experienced guitarist is using when they're playing that song. And so this is a difficult way to start. So we're not going to start that way. We're going to take the easy way, get you to become familiar with the guitar, become familiar with the fretboard, all while doing very simple things that are going to make everything easy. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to learn a single scale. It's in C, the key of C, so it's just the notes of the C major scale. We're just going to play them in some weird ways so we start understanding the fretboard. And here's how this goes. The scale goes as follows. And that's moved us through all the strings and all the notes of the C major scale. Now, why are we doing this? Well, we have a lot of little basic things to pick up. We need to know the names of the strings. We need to know the names of the notes. We need to know where they are. So what we're going to do in practicing this scale is we're going to say the notes. We're just going to get used to where the notes are. It goes like this. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We got the notes. Now, you're not going to know this right off the bat. It's going to take a little while. That's why I say this is the first thing you practice and you get used to learning it. And you might say, well, I don't see why I need to know this. How does this help me? It helps you incredibly. The first thing we did was we have gone through all the notes and now we know the names of each of the strings. It's an E, an A, a D, a G, a B, and an E. And you notice we have two strings that are the same. They're both E's, they're just octaves apart. Okay, good news. We just learned some stuff though, and this is helping us. But there's even more subtle things in there. What really makes music, what makes scales, is whether notes are separated on the guitar by a fret or whether they're side by each. The two frets are close together. And you might go, well, that seems strange. It's not strange. This is what it's all about. And so if I go to the A string and I say, where is the B note? The B note's here. And the C note is here. Okay, we practice that right from the scale. And what you notice is between B and C, there is no separate fret. They're just right side by each. So we need to remember that. B and C are side by each. Well, does that happen anywhere else? Well, yeah, the next string down. D, E, and F. The notes are side by each. So we always know that B and C are just the next fret up or down, and E and F are the same. All the rest of the notes are always going to be separated by a space. And we see this right at the start. We see that there's an open E, and where's the F? Well, the F is right here. So in the case of E and F on the top string, the fretting is by the nut itself, and then we go to the first fret. So they're side by each. And we can see the same thing down here in the B string and C. So we're starting to accumulate some basic working knowledges of music and our scale. And this is the power of this approach. It's given us a wonderful insight into how the guitar itself is working. And you might say, well, I want to play some chords. I want to do that. Well, good. What's a chord? A chord is just 3 notes. And on the top 4 strings, everything's kind of easy. We can talk about it in a pretty simple way. We just need 3 notes to talk about a chord. So let's talk about the C chord, because that is the key we're in and it's the first chord. I know my C notes here. A third is always down a string and back a fret. And so I know that this is on the D string, that's the E note, and F notes here. So I have C and I have my E. Interestingly, the next string, without doing anything to it, is the third component of the C chord. Now, there's lots of technical things we can do to prove this or demonstrate it or describe how we're getting it. But for the moment, we're just going to learn by ear and hear what's going on. C, E, G. That's going to be our C chord. We can do the exact same thing with the G chord. You might say, well, why do we care about the G chord? The guitar is all about patterns. And in the C major scale, the chords of most interest are going to be the major chords, and the major chords are the first note, the fourth note, and the fifth note. And so the G chord is going to be based on that fifth note. So we count C, D, E, F, G. G is number 5. So we do the same thing. We have a G note here. We come back to the third. That's going to be a B, and it's the next open string down. Okay, and the next open string down is a D. So now we have the 3 notes. So now we have 2 chords. We have a C. You might say, wait, how did you just jump from that 3-note system to the chord you just played? Well, I wanted to play more strings. I want the chord to sound better. So I took the 3 notes and I said, well, what other notes do I have available that will sound right? Is there a B note in the C? No, there isn't. It's just going to need a C note, perhaps. There's the C note. Is there an E in the C chord? Well, yes, there is. It's right here. And so I can keep the open E string. There's my C chord. So I don't have to play all the notes. I could play my chord as just a 3-string chord. Okay, a little harder to do because you miss the higher notes. You have to not strum them, but you get it. I can do the same thing with the D. Okay, this next note, the D. Okay, is there a D in the G chord? Well, yes, there is. That's the 3rd string. Is there another D I can play? Well, there is. There's a D right here. Okay, so I could have that as one of my chords. Is there a B note in the chord? Well, yes, there is. So I could leave that open if I wanted to. Is there a G note in the G chord? Yes, there is. So I can play more strings if I want to. I can be fancier if I want to. Now, when we're talking about our chords that go with C, in the key of C, the second of the group is really the F chord. And an F chord is always played, or generally played, as a bar chord. That's hard. So we're not going to do that. We're going to just use the 3-note thing. So we know there's an F note here. We know that the 3rd is going to be 1 string down and 1 fret over. But here is where we get it to a complication of the guitar. Whenever we cross the B note or into the B note, or B string I should say, we have to be careful. Everything gets shifted up 1 fret. And so we end up having to fret the C note. And that's a 3-note chord that represents our F. And that's really all we need to know in order to play it. Now, that one's complicated. This is a learning moment that takes a little more work. So we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to learn the C, and we're going to learn the G, and we're going to let the F chord just sit for a little bit as play the 3 strings. There's lots of things we can come back to on an F chord, and lots of people like to talk about it. But do we see what just happened? I'm not looking up charts. I'm not looking up complications, because I understand that nice, simple scale. It starts with E, but it's just the C scale. I've learned all about the basics of music. Now, this video is not going to make sense if you're brand new to the guitar, picking it up for the very first time. You're going to watch it a bunch of times to figure this out and start getting the clues together of how to make this work well for you. But this is the important starting point. It is really all about getting your mechanical skills. It's about understanding where the notes sit so that you can do something further to simplify the huge amount of information you would take on if you try to memorize everything. And so you might say, well, is there some way I could make this feel better? Is there some way it could just seem easier? Well, there is. We already know we're working in the key of C. We're working in the C major scale. Let's make a visual representation of our C notes that's not so buried. We're going to do that by starting on C. And remember the idea, we skip notes, skip frets. So there's D. There's E. Remember that F comes right after E without a fret between them. There's our F note. When we come back to G, we might say, I don't remember that's G, so we'd go D, E, F, skip to G, A, B, C. So this is a beautiful two-string representation of our C major scale. And this is all we're doing in music. We're learning how to put these sequences and these ideas together under our hands so that everything else will evolve out of it. So this is a very powerful start, especially if you're a beginner to the guitar. If you don't like it, I mean, I understand this is a little bit of a different approach than a lot of people take, but this will speed up your evolution like crazy without having to overwhelm yourself with a lot of knowledge. It's just one scale, it's just one pattern that we're playing through our strings, and you're coming away learning a huge amount just by practicing one very straightforward thing.